Hello! Welcome everybody to GameGuru Classic and GameGuru Max live broadcast number 109. But before I speak another sentence, I want to make sure that everyone can hear me loud and clear, which means going to the live chat that you cannot see, just to make sure that everyone is listening and can hear and everything's great. Thank you very much, Zach. Yes, everyone can hear me, or at least Zach can hear me. Okay, so what is the format of these broadcasts? Pretty simple, split into 2 or 3 sections. The first is some demos and some news, so I can reveal what's going on in the deepest, darkest secrets of GameGuru Max universe and GameGuru Classic universe. And then second, I answer some of your questions. You can ask those questions right away. Zach's on hand to answer a couple of them. Any ones that cannot be answered, I can have a go at it in the second part during the Q&A. Remember to stick a question mark at the end, just make it a little bit easier for us to scroll through the live chat, find those questions quickly, so we can get more answers in before our time is up. We're aiming for a 30-minute broadcast. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we live in hope. So, without further ado, let's crack on. First step, of course, is GameGuru Classic. Now, last week was a big one. Did quite a... if you're interested in more broadcasts about Classic, check out last week's broadcast. There's quite a lot of meat on that bone. Anyone who's been following GameGuru Classic will also know that we released the update on Monday, a big one. This update included a full 64-bit binary version of GameGuru Classic, which means you're no longer restricted to the system memory cap of 3 GB, and your levels can now be much larger. On top of that, there was lots of really cool features that I showed you in last week's broadcast, but you can now, if you've got GameGuru Classic, you can get your hands on it with the update that we put out on Monday. I also asked that because it's, there's a lot of new code, a lot of shuffling around of code for that update, and so if you do find any issues, please use our GitHub issues board, which you can find here. And if you can tag as many of these as you can, and they'll all get assigned. As you can see, there's only currently 14 in total open. Some are waiting for the next update, some have been fixed needing confirmation, and some simply need more information before we can determine and reproduce the bug. And so this is where you'll go if you do have a problem with GameGuru Classic and you want to report it. And I'd be much appreciative if you do that. Make my life a little bit easier when it comes to figuring out how to reproduce the bug, because usually the reproducing of it is the hard part. Fixing it is relatively easy. It's just having the correct step-by-steps so we can reproduce what you see at our end, and then we can fix it and release an update in a nice, quick and timely fashion. So look out for another GameGuru Max update in the future. So without further ado, let's slide into GameGuru Max universe. Okay. So we, I think it was Friday. Yes, of course it was. Friday we released the news about the screenshot competition winners, and I can click on this screen and show you the 5 winners. Fabio came in first place with this absolutely gorgeous shot using a lot of subtle lighting to create something that I had to add. It was a double take to realise, are you sure that's GameGuru Max? Well, absolutely. When you look a bit closer, you recognise all the assets that comes out of the box. Stormy did a really nice one. It's sort of, you see it a lot in movies, it's the long shadow trick. Not a lot in this scene, but a very powerful image. Great use, not just of light and shadow, but the colour, that lovely orangey feel. Martin pulling out the hat again with an incredibly detailed scene. Really nice lighting. It feels like this HDR at its best, with strong light and dark light, but you get to see all the detail, and that actually looks like a lovely level to run around in and solve game problems. Dennis in 4th place, again the long shadow trick. I like this because it's at the start of the adventure, going into the cave and who knows what you might find. Very noir. And finally in 5th place, Aaron. Again, lovely, not just use of just white and white lights, but create a nice colourful scene. and lots of detail and lots of lights and shadows going on as well. Again, this is something that looks alive. It looks like it's on fire right now, and you can imagine playing a game when you have to run through this basement to get to safety up them burning stairs. There was lots of, I think there was over 30 submissions and lots of really good screenshots. In fact, it was really hard to pick 5. So what we want to do, we're going to ask permissions in advance, but what we'd like to do is show everyone the other screenshots that entered the competition, just so you can have a glance. So we're going to get permissions first, then I'm going to create a collage, and then you can go on a particular link, and then you can look at all the screenshots. And every screenshot was created in GameGuru Max using out-of-the-box assets. No custom art need apply. Just to show you the variety you can create even now with GameGuru Max, even though it's still in early access. So that's the screenshot competition, but of course you're all been eagerly waiting for the demo part. That is what have we been doing in the last 7 days. Well, I'd like to show you. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into my little pet project and go into here and show you this. I actually spent about an hour or 2 hours creating this. This is my little island level, and what it's going to demonstrate are 20 new behaviours in this Friday's update. So let me just give you a quick look at what they look like from here. If I go from newest to oldest, that's the easiest way to find out all of the new behaviours. Made updates to the character attack, the melee attack, and play animation and zombie attack. The reason those are at the top, I'll show you one of those changes a little bit later. But you've got stand and speak more. The regular stand and speak behaviour, it's a character that just says one thing. The stand and speak more behaviour lets you say multiple things, and you can control exactly how that works. And you can see here on the right, those are all the properties which expand the capabilities of it much more than the regular stand and speak one. Markers. As you can see, we've added a few into the markers. Stealth zone, so if you're inside the zone you can't be detected, initially detected that is. Electrocution, so if you walk into a zone you'll be electrocuted. Got some improvements to the water control. NPC in zone, if a character walks through a zone it triggers and something can happen. But the biggest collection is in the objects category. So, and I won't go into lots of details because I'm going to demonstrate each of those in the level. We've got Crusher, Raider, Rockfall, Decals Show. You've got Glow. This is a really good one. I'll talk a little bit about that later. You've got Stealth Shield, so you can pick this up and activate a Stealth Shield mode. Parachute, Platform, Night Vision Goggles, Image Panel for game stats. That's a really cool one. A lot of people have been asking about in-game HUDs. Well, this starts that ball rolling. Binoculars, task objects, that's a really cool one. Security monitor, so you can actually look at the monitor and see a camera somewhere else in the game. And we introduced these 2 weeks ago, the sentry gun, trapdoor, etc, etc. And there's a collapsing floor down here as well. And yeah, check it out, lots and lots of behaviours for you to add to your next game project. But what I'd like to do is demonstrate it. So we'll go straight in, and I think it's going to speak at me. Yes.
If you are clever and use your brain better, maybe you can escape your confinement.
And this is the speak more. So if I press E, it triggers the second speech.
Well done, you have defeated me. You must have a brain the size of a planet.
And I think you can have up to 4 speeches chained one after the other. For this character, and this is just the starting point. I don't think I know when we start doing lots of RPG game logic, we're going to have a lot more sophistication around what characters say when they say it. They say different things based on different things that are happening in the game. But you know, we've stepped up a level for this particular logic, so now it's not just a character saying the same thing over and over. Now they can say multiple things. So let's go on a little tour of this. This is the stealth pickup. So you can pick up stealth shield and use hints to activate the shield, and you can switch it off. You've got the glow behavior. Now what this is, it was requested and I think it was a good idea, and I thought, well, let's pop it straight in. All the behaviours that I'm going to demonstrate today was kindly contributed by Necrim59. The glow behaviour is the only one I did. But I wanted to create that behaviour because it reveals the 28 new lure commands that I've added into this Friday's update. And I'll show you what those commands are a little bit later. Suffice it to say, you can actually control the emissive strength in-game. You can make it super, super bright, or you can have it flicker, you can do all kinds of things. Tie that in with some lighting effects, and you'll have all the fun in the world when it comes to improving your lighting visuals. So we have a switch here. Massive key is required to use. Now I just use keys because I had a key model. But the idea of this is it's like this behaviour, you have to find a tool, a particular tool, like a sledgehammer or a crowbar. Once you've found and collected the tool, come back here and then this will suddenly work. So I've assigned the other half of this tool system to this massive key, so I collect that. And then I go back, and then when I next try and activate this, you see it's not saying go find such and such, it's ready to use, so I can press E. And in this particular case, it's linked to what was initially a hidden metal skull, and it's just spawned it. So now it just drops down like so. Another thing I'd like to show is these arrows. So you can imagine Indiana Jones, traps, arrows buried into walls. I just threw some into the mouth of our stone dragons. The almighty crusher. So you imagine like going down a corridor. Hey, oh wait, it hurts. See, I do get damage. And I go into the crusher, then I get crushed. So yeah, that's kind of what the crusher does. This is a cool one. You can actually, when you press E, it shows you in-game HUD decals. So there's a behaviour where you can stack images one on top of the other in order to create this sort of in-game animation. And there's 9 stages, 9 layers for that image. Here's another one. It's a lift. So you press E to start. Takes us all the way up high in the sky. Drop down. And here's the parachute. I can deploy that, and here we go. I've just set myself really high just for the purposes of, and I'm going to land pretty much at the base of the statue where I started. I think there's a little bit more work on that one, so I apologise in advance to the author. I might have messed that up, but the idea is you get a parachute, you can deploy it, and then it'll make sure your landing is a little softer. Also down here, I'll just show you this. There's decal show, so a trigger zone down there, and then you can show a decal, so it could be like an alert sign. Here's rockfall. So this crushes you if you're near it, you get damage, you can see the shake as well. Here's another example of my glow behaviour. If I go a bit close and just stay there for a while, you'll see it actually is randomly moving up and down the emissive strength of that light, and again, like I said, if you tie that with a light, it'll look really cool. You've got climber, so you can climb up things like so, and that's the collapsing floor. But I think there's a little bug in there that if you use that, all of the text in the game disappears, so we're not going to use it right now. So what else have we got? Let's go over the hump. We have security monitor. Look into there. This is a camera that I've placed on a pole somewhere further into the level. We're taking a look at all of our zombies, chilling out, minding their own business. I put a red strobe light as well so you can see it. And this model, just for full disclaimer, this model is not part of GameGuru Max. It's not out of the box. It was actually a test. Someone sent me a model. I think it might have been an FBX, and it was misbehaving. Well, now it isn't misbehaving, so some small fixes there. I think it's a really nice model. Could do with a bit higher quality texture, because when you get right up to a door or a wall, it's quite low res, but you know, that's really up to the artists who are creating models these days. Okay, so you press Q to leave that security camera, you're back where you started. We've got some binocs. Pick the binoculars. We can magnify, so I can look around with the big binocs. You've got obviously trigger this character, but it looks what the character can do. He triggers something else. So now an NPC in zone is a behaviour. So as soon as an NPC walks into a zone, you can have that trigger things. This is a conveyor behaviour, which basically just speeds you along. So you have no control except to point your nose in the right direction, and it slides you along like a conveyor belt. I've just landed myself in a stealth zone. Remember the stealth zone? So whilst I'm in the zone, zombies can't see me, but as soon as I step outside of the zone, they suddenly can. This is an electrocution zone. So yeah, that hurts. 2 zombies are on my case. Here's some night goggles. And also, I didn't mention it, but you've probably seen it now. See this radar at the top, on the top right? There's a yellow blob. Well, that yellow blob is actually an objective I've set up, which is this great big holy grail in the yellow. But before I go and collect that, look what night vision does. Zip. So, night vision off, can't see anything. Night vision on, I see scary zombies. So I'll go and collect me trophy and try and get out of this trap I've just created for myself. So yeah, more zombies are on my case now. Okay, and finally, I think it's finally, there might be 1 or 2 other things in there, but finally we have my lovely little sailing yacht. Press E, and now I can push off, and now I go sailing. So bye bye islands. I've completed level 1 of my completely random nonsensical level, but it was super useful for me to demonstrate all the behaviours that are in this Friday's build, and I'm hoping, you know, you're starting to see why we've put a lot of energy and totally encouraging the creation of behaviours. They are basically the lifeblood of your game. The more behaviours you've got, and the more configurability of those behaviours, the more things you can do without necessarily resorting to code. Obviously, some poor mugs would have to stay at the back creating the behaviours with code, but the idea is 95% of users at some point probably never need to code. They just find the right behaviour, plug it into the game object, and away you go. So watch these behaviour libraries expand quite a bit over the next months and years. Okay, before I move off completely the subject of behaviours, let me show you this, which is the entity material command list. 28 commands, which effectively change all of the material properties I could think of, certainly all of the ones that are exposed when you try and edit a material of an object. In fact, just so I don't go waffly, let's look at this character and go to materials. You see you've got materials for base colour, you've got alpha clipping, normal strength, roughness strength, metalness, emissive strength, reflectance, transparency, double-sided, planar reflection, and cast shadows. An emissive colour. Notice anything familiar? Base colour, alpha, alpha clipping, alpha and colour. The colour is just RGB, the colour of it. Alpha is its transparency, how translucent it is. Fully opaque or fully transparent. Obviously before, normal strength, roughness and metal strength, the emissive colour and the emissive strength. Just for anyone who wants to geek out, emissive colour is the RGB, and the alpha of the emissive colour is its emissive strength. And of course we got reflectance. You'll never need to change render bias, I'm pretty sure of that. Switching transparency on and off, double-sided on and off, planar on and off, and cast shadows on and off. And those are all now controllable within the game scripts and can be attached to behaviours. So I expect you to see new behaviours in the future that make heavy use of a lot of these things, because up until now that just wasn't possible. Okay, and finally, it was a request. I think it only came in today, but I thought, you know what, sometimes people ask a question, I don't provide the right answer. So having that question telegraphed, even emailed to me before the broadcast, is probably one of the best ways. And it was something that we attempted, we certainly talked about it in previous broadcasts, but I couldn't demonstrate it. So the request was really, can you just finish what you started? I kind of want to see it. And what is it? Well, somebody wanted to, they've got animations, but they wanted to start a character off with an animation, but then once that character sees you or detects you or is triggered, they jump into the regular behaviour, shooting or melee or whatever it happens to be. There wasn't really an easy way to do that up until this Friday's build. So I'm going to walk you through the process of what you need to do. One example of it, and then of course you get the idea of how it all works with other things. Let's say we want this Billy Joe character to be hammering on that wall over there, but when he's triggered, stops what he's doing and comes and attacks you with the hammer. So that's what we're going to create. And I'm going to go into some pseudo advanced stuff, but I think it's useful for you to see what's going on. First thing first, let's go into the importer. So import 3D model. I'm going to pick a character called BillyJoe.dbo. That's the model. I'll copy that. So there's our character, happy little chappy. And we're going to give it a unique name because we're going to import this at some point. So Billy Joe Super Hammer. We can see it quickly. Next thing, we've got to customize. Improve the model importer a little further. So now, if you look down, it used to say character collision. I've optimized that description to just character. Why? Because up until now, you couldn't really import a model as a character. And when you exported it, it was the wrong settings, and so you could never do a character. Now you can. Which also means you can take existing characters from the character creator or other things and re-import them and change certain things. So I've kept it simple for now. They only have one option. Will there be more in the future, whether it's male or female, and that's down to what animations are chosen. Which so I'm going to keep it as a male, clearly as a guy. And finally, we go to animation tools. Now, we don't really know what animations are in this character. It looks like pistol shooting, but we don't want to guess, and we want this guy running around with a hammer. So we clear all the animations out, go to load animation file. I think I'll automate this a little further so it already takes you and drops you into the correct location, which is the animations folder. And what we're looking for are these. These are animation set text descriptors. And what that means is, instead of just loading it one animation at a time, if it was a text file in a certain format, it actually has a big list of animations, and it pulls them from all of these folders, and it creates a big list of animations in one go. And this is melee one is one you'd have if, say, the character doesn't have a weapon at all, fists. The one underneath the axe, that's kind of the axe where it brings it down from over his head and hits you. So we'll pick the axe one. Look, all these were inside that text file. So we have all the animations we need for someone who attacks with an axe. Obviously it'll look good as a hammer as well. And then on top of all that, because remember the original question, how do we have them play an animation and then go into what is this behavior going to be a melee attack with a hammer, is we just add it to the end. So go to activities, hammering wall, and that you get attacked, and you can add as many animations as you want. You can configure this to suit your character that you're creating. Double check we've got a unique name, Billy Joe Super Hammer, and then click import object. And then we get a preview, so we can just so I can see him quickly. And it looks like Billy Joe Super Hammer is listed to the top because I'm creating new to old, so obviously that makes it easy for me to find it. And we drop him in. Okay, so this character, if we look at his character settings, is an enemy, got some health. Its behavior is a melee attack. This was all part of the improvements to the model importer, so now this is straight out of the model importer. But this is the bit that's been added. Starter animation, yes, we want a starter animation. The animation itself, okay, what have we got? Well, we got all of the ones that were part of the melee axe animation, but look at the bottom. The one we added, hammering wall. So we select that, we rotate this guy, we put him near the wall, like so, and then we run. We should be hammering the wall now. There you go. Bang, 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 bang. And the final piece of the question is, we want this character to react when I enter a zone. So I'm going to add a zone, go into my visual editor, drag, connect that zone with this character, and we're done. So now if I, sorry, that's a little bug, run again, stealth and creep along. Now he won't be able to hear me or see me this far away with his back to me and I'm crawling. Crawling, you don't make a noise, you creep right up to a character. But watch, because I've connected the trigger zone to that character, it's triggered, and then bang. Now obviously he's not got a tool, that was my omission. So if we go to melee, if we go down, you'll see we've got no weapon, hammer. But when you do that, it tries to be clever and says, oh, I know what animation you want, boom. It'll do that because most people will want the correct animation based on the weapon. But remember, we know better because we've created our own character. So you set it back to default animation, so you're using your animations that you've created. So now when we rerun, trigger, he's now got a hammer in his hand and he's attacking. So there you go. So that was by popular request. At least two people asked for it. So I wanted to demonstrate in practice how you actually go about doing that. Obviously, we can add more properties to this behavior here. Melee. We've also added, me've added the starter animation and the drop down and the ticky box for the character attack as well. So you'll find it there. And in the future, there will be options not just to keep expanding this properties list indefinitely, but triggering off other behaviors. So you can actually have a behavior that then calls another behavior, and then you can set the properties of that. Right now, you can kind of do it in the behavior editor, but you don't get to change the properties of that second behavior. So it's not as versatile as it could be. So hopefully that shows you how to do what you wanted. Or in my own inimicable style, I've completely got the answer wrong for the question. So hopefully that was useful. So without further ado, let's go on and see if there's any questions. Okay, looking for a chat window, which I've got on this screen. And Zach, if you want to post an orange, so I know what the question... thank you very much. So Zach's posted the question that was asked earlier, and I can answer the ones from back in the past. First of these questions is, when will we be able to convert classic games to Macs? Not for a while. I think there's quite a lot of work to do in terms of retaining your terrains, then retaining all the objects and some of the logic and all of the internal settings. Remember, we worked on GameGuru Max for 2 years, so there's quite a lot of changes. Some things won't be able to move across. Some things will require a level of conversion before they move across. And other things just move across nicely, easily, because they might just be assets, etc. But there is no ETA on that. But now we've opened up GameGuru Classic as a repository with the latest version. We should be able to see more contributions in that light, because I think there's a lot of people who are reluctant to move to Macs until they can move their whole game project over. Some game projects have been worked on for years now, and it'd be a shame to waste all that work just to move to Macs. So yeah, it's going to be an ongoing process, but there's no ETA on it just yet. Another question, can you make the demo map you showcased available? Yeah, I can do. It's pretty rubbish. I'll tell you what I'll do. Maybe someone emails me as a reminder. It's just an FPM, and in Friday's build, everything that you saw, apart from that building on the other side of the island, which wasn't really important anyway, is already in the software. So you just have to load in the FPM. You don't need any extra assets. Everything else is in the Friday's build. So yeah, just someone email me. We'll get the FPM zipped up. We'll put it on the socials, and then you can grab it if you want it. Third question, wondering if there is an ETA on the weather system, and will it include ground fog, not just the volumetric fog? Ground fog really is volumetric fog. The fog we've got now is distance fog. It uses a depth value to figure out where the fog should be. It's pretty crude, it's pretty old school. Volumetric fog, volumetric system is used to create ground fog, and it's quite effective. Think of things like steamy mango swamps, that sort of thing, rolling fog, animating fog. And you need a volumetric particle system with a lot of very soft particles to create that effect. Again, there's no ETA on whether that's happening sooner rather than later. It's pretty cosmetic. It could be that as we enhance certain parts of the engine, someone comes along with a behavior that says better weather and better fog, which would be completely outside of the internal roadmap, but yeah, could very well happen. And coming from the community side, I suppose there's a logic in that we work on the tech, make sure that the game engine is capable of doing it, and then maybe the community take that tech and those commands and run with it the rest of the way to create the behaviors and the properties, etc. But there's no ETA on that at the moment. Here's a fresh question. How add custom items in the character creator? Currently you cannot. The character creator only lets you create variations of bodies, so heads, bodies, arms, legs, shoes, hats, things of that nature. Closest you can get is creating head attachments, so headdresses, stuff like that. There isn't an ability within the character creator to add any custom items, let's say items that you carry. It's a good idea, and it's not a million miles away from being implemented, because as you saw just then, when we created that the Billy Joe character and we set it as a character, it would be super easy just to drop in an extra drop down which lets you choose a weapon or a tool to put in the hand of that character, so that character has it by default when you drop it into the level. And the model importer and the character creator, they share a lot of code, and so once you've done it in one, it's easy to expose in the other. But you can't do it right now, so I suppose that's the short answer. Requiem for Ravenholm asks, in Classic, is there any way to make a win zone only active with a trigger or key? I have searched online, I haven't found anything helpful so far. So you want to have a win zone, and it's only active when you've triggered it. Yeah, I reckon we'll just have a go. This is, after all, a live broadcast. We do this thing all the time. Okay, so we've got a level. I start here. We have a win zone here, and we can have some objective here. So I would imagine, using just knowledge of what you'd expect, to have yeah, I think we need to add some extra things, don't we? In the position, rotating and scaling and behaviors, you notice there's no general tab for an object, for a character. You've got these character settings, or you've got general settings, and one of them is show at start of level. I wonder if for zones we could have another general folder which is active at start of level, so the win zone could actually be deactivated at start, and then, as you saw in other examples, you just link that one to that one, and then when the player walks into this zone, like so, walks into this zone, then that triggers that, and then when you enter then you win the game. So that looks like a feature request, doesn't it? Can we have a general section for all zones which allows the zone to be active, or rather deactivated, before the level starts? So it can't be done now unless you create a behavior for it. But I think that should be in the core product. So add it to the issues board as a feature request, and I'll get it properly tagged and assigned, and we'll see how much work is involved in adding it, or whether someone gazumps me and creates the behavior for me. Another question, this from AZ Graphics, is mirror material like possible in GG Max? Mirror material. Now this is where I get the question wrong, or rather the answer wrong. Material mirror, I suppose you mean these are our textures that are mapped onto here, and you want to mirror this material. You want to mirror that, flip it, which is vertical flip, and mirror, which is a horizontal flip. That would mess up the building, because this texture UV is mapped to the UV of this geometry. If you just flip this, the orientation of this texture, that whole model messes up. Or do you mean, is it like a reflecty thing? So let's say take this piece of wood and you make it super reflective. Then you would need to change this to white, change this normal map to smooth, make sure the surface gives you full metalness and reflectance, and then it'll be nice and shiny. But remember, it's planar reflection if you want it to reflect horizontal plane upwards. So you can have a mirror on the floor right now. If the question is, can we have a mirror like on the wall, like so, that's not currently possible. The technology is in here, it's buried inside the Wicked engine somewhere, but it's not currently available. But yeah, do let me know if lots and lots of people like mirrors. It is a performance hog. Think about it. If you're standing at that mirror, you're reflecting everything in high detail. We get away with other things like, let's see, what's a good way to demonstrate this? I need something like that skull. It's not here, is it? Let's go to the other one. Yeah, oh, this is a good way to demonstrate it. It's called an environment map. So this skull, it's set to be very shiny, and as you just, when you saw it roll, did you notice how it reflected all of its environment? That's because it's nice and reflective. So I think with metalness, yeah, you kind of need to control all of these, the textures, the metalness of it. You're going to make sure all these are correct, and then the environment will kind of reflect everything that's around that object, but it's not a proper mirror. You need planar reflection for a proper mirror, and that's a bit of a hog. And planar is reused. It's used when you want to reflect stuff in the water, and when you're away from the water, it's then used for planar reflection in, say, things like, you can find one for you, puddles. So you've got a puddle, like so, and you'll have a planar reflection set to that, so it'll reflect anything that is, you know. In fact, no, I can actually show you a proper example of planar reflection. Talk about a thorough answer to the question, Switch Escape. If you play Switch Escape, there is, in the first room, a puddle with planar reflection, and that is high quality. So think about that then. Planar reflection, like a puddle, but it's on a wall. But it's easy to do planar on the floor because it's the same sort of camera clip space as the water uses. When you put it on a wall, it's harder to sort of reuse it for water and puddles if you know you're cutting the camera in the opposite axis. So yeah, not super straightforward. But do let us know if a lot of people want mirrors. We can provide potentially down the road. Okay, questions. The next question is from No Content. Weapon importer, question mark. There is not a weapon importer in GameGuru Max. We are looking at gently introducing something of a kind with our new weapon system. So we're starting that process by decoupling the hands from the melee weapons, and then you can replace one melee weapon with a different melee weapon, but reuse the hands and all the animations for the hands. That way you don't have to create the whole lot and all the animations. You just have to sort of replace a club with a steel bar, with a brick, stick with a nail in it, whatever it is. So you only have to model that much and just slide it into the hands of the player or the characters. So we're easing our way into it, but there isn't one at the moment, and we're going to be very tentative when we start bandying words around like weapon editor, because that's a lot of work. Okay, here's a question from 3Com. Any way to have attachable lights, like a light in a moving car? Yeah, it's called Smart Objects. So let's say I have, oh, it could be anything, this, right? And then you want a light on it, so we put a light here. And then what you do is you say, I want this, control, and I want that, and I want to make a group out of it. So, bang. Once you've made a group out of it, get some more room. There you go, see? And it's part of it. And then finally, your last step, sorry, I just made a boo-boo there. The last step is here, save group. And when you save group, it saves it as what's called a smart object. Then the next time you're browsing your object library, you can drag in that smart object, and the light is permanently associated with the object. And if that thing you've attached just happens to be a particle or a light, that light follows the whole thing around. So you'd make this whole smart object movable under a behavior, and in theory, because I ain't doing it now, we are kind of cracking on with, wow, just look at the time on the broadcast. Yeah, we have broken that 30-minute mark. I apologise. In theory, yeah, the lights, the particles, everything should move with the smart object. If it doesn't, it's a bug, and it should be put in the issues board. But I will not be deterred. I didn't realise we were nearly 40 minutes in. Let's carry on with some more answers. And the next one is dual rendering scope. No, we have no dual rendering scope in GameGuru Max at the moment. I can absolutely confirm that does not exist in GameGuru Max. Okay, Lee West Artists asks, is there any way to change the arms of the playable character? Yeah, that's part of the new weapon system that we're still working on, and we're going to work through as we're doing things like VR. We already have a different set of textures for the arms, but I think we need more of them, and we need to then expose those settings to the user, so you can choose which arms you want. But that was one of the purposes of the new weapon system, to give you that kind of customizable capability, rather than just get what you're given, which was the case with GameGuru Classic. So we want you to have that level of customization, and we're developing a system to let you do it. I'm not sure when it'll be released, but yeah, keep an eye out in and around when we talk about VR. Okay, looking for another question, and this is from Duke229. Hey lads, I just got home from work. What has been shown so far? Question mark. Yeah, I'll let the community live chat answer those ones. Let's find the question for old Lee. Okay, here's another question. This is from SPJ2401. When are custom biomes coming? Yeah, custom biomes, custom terrain textures, custom other things. There's a few library stuffs where you can't easily and quickly import your own stuff that you've created. They're kind of locked to the library that we've provided for GameGuru Max out of the box. There is no ETA on any of those things. We do have a sort of a roadmap that's focusing on finishing off the behaviour sort of things, and we're going to ease then into the RPG and the puzzle. You've already seen some elements of RPG and some elements of the puzzle in the behaviours that we've already released, but we're going to go we're going to go megaton on making sure they got everything that you might want for RPG. I won't say everything, a good chunk, a good toolbox of things for RPG, and a good toolbox of things for puzzle, and of course VR mixed into that as well. Other things, other ideas, please put them on the issues board, and then once they're on there, we can refine the ideas and then put a priority to them, and then probably figure out how long it will take to do once we know exactly what it is that everybody wants. Okay, looking for another question. We're at 42 minutes into the hour. Lots of question marks here. This is from Monkey Frog Studios, so it's kind of one of the last questions too. What do the values for weight and friction represent? In other words, if the weight is set to 100 or friction is set to 100, what is that weight and what is the friction equivalent to? Great question. It's not really hugely documented. We kind of left everything at defaults. The weight and the friction represent percentage. So 100 for friction and 100 for weight represent 100%. 100% of what? Well, it's the 100%, which means it's an unmodified object that has mass. The mass is calculated based on the overall dimensions of the object. So a small object would have a small mass, a large object would have a large mass. And then all the defaults of the bullet physics engine uses that. What the friction and the weight percentages do is modulate those two attributes. So if you just left it at 100, an object of a certain size would attempt to act of an object in the Newtonian sense of an object of that size made of a generic material. If you then set friction to 2000%, it'd get very, very sticky and very hard to push along. Or if you set the weight to 1%, a great big crate would be as light as a feather. So that's what the numbers mean. However, we've had a recent, there's a thread going on about something slightly different, which is, should characters push barrels out the way? And at what point does it make no sense for a character to push a thing out the way? And so if there is a bug in that system, in how I've described that it should work, please put that down in the issues board as well. It's not going to be a hard fix. It's probably just a bit of an omission in the code, but that's how it's supposed to work. It's based on percentage. So looking at the clock, yeah, 44 minutes in, we could actually get to the hour. We don't want to get to the hour late. Okay, we'll get two more questions from either people who haven't asked a question before or the next two questions, and then we'll call that one a day. So who's got the next question from someone who haven't asked a question? Everyone who's asked a question now has also asked a question before. So we go back to the last new question, and yeah, and this is from AZ Graphics. Last question today for me, promise. Smiley. When animated decals will be added? don't we have animated decals? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Or maybe I'm confusing myself with GameGuru Classic, which I have frequented recently. Do you want animated decals? I suppose there's a use for them. I've kind of been focusing on getting rid of decals for a good chunk of them at least, and replacing them with particles, because animated decals were kind of the hack to show like an explosion or something, or some smoke debris. Where in modern games you want to use particles, so they're volumetric and three-dimensional, and you can't use animated decals in VR because it looks silly, and it has to be 3D particles there as well. So let me know if you have some really good uses for animated decals. If there's some good case studies for that, yeah, then we'll add that to our list. And the next question below that one, this is from SVJ2401, his second question. Will we ever get a way to export to Android, Quest, Mac OS, and or Linux? Probably not. If you ask anyone, how difficult is it to write a complete games engine? The answer is rather difficult and takes a rather long time. To then do it again for like 3 other platforms, perhaps in another universe that could have been a possibility, but we're still a very small team, and it makes sense to put all of our energies and resources into making the GameGuru Max PC version everything everyone wants it to be. And until we finish that mission, I don't think it makes sense to dilute the efforts and start working on other platforms to try and grab extra visibility or extra revenue. Let's make a killer product. Let's make a killer PC product with GameGuru Max. Let's get to version 1 and then big grins on our faces just how cool it actually turned out to be. Once all that's done, maybe we impress a big publisher with deep pockets who say, we love your idea, we'll get another team together and we'll basically recreate GameGuru Max on other platforms. That could be a possibility, but there's a definite stage to this. Stage 1, get out of early access. Stage 2, get version 1 super awesome. Then stage 3 is anyone interested in other platforms. So that's it for this week. Thank you very much for all those questions, and I'm glad I got to almost the end of the live chat with the questions. It'll be same again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT. As I hinted at earlier, there will be a version this Friday which includes over 20 new behaviours, 28 new lure commands, and if you can find it in the socials, a little 2-island FPM that Lee made for a laugh to help you see what all these behaviours actually do. But please don't score me on it. It's really a very quick creation, put it that way. So I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I'll be back next week, as I said. So until then, thank you very much for your kind attention, and goodbye.